All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's educational opportunity, as we like to call them. My name is Deborah Leach. I'm with Connell Insurance, and today we're going to be talking about, as you can see, riding the wave of uncertainty. And boy, don't we all know the only thing that is certain is uncertainty right now. I am joined today by Sarah Neese, who is a wellness education specialist with Cox Health Corporate and Employee Wellness Department. Sarah graduated from Missouri State University with a Master of Science degree in Health Promotion and Wellness Management. She has also recently received her Health Education Specialist certification. Sarah believes that total well-being does not consist of just nutrition and physical activity, but that total well-being holistically consists of other dimensions like social, emotional, occupational, environmental, and intellectual wellness. Sarah's passion is helping others live their best life through the power of health and total well-being. So, without further ado, I will turn it over to Sarah with Cox Health.
All right. Thank you so much, Deborah. Good morning, everyone. I hope you are well. Today, like Deborah mentioned, I'm going to be talking about uncertainty. And right now, in our world, there is a lot going on and a lot of uncertainty. At the moment, we are all just kind of living life day by day, waiting for updates, changes, direction in work, maybe direction with your kiddo's school, society, and it feels like everything. You can see in the image that the wave of uncertainty looks like it might come crashing down on top of that man. And maybe that's how we feel sometimes. The unknown can be really scary. And when we are in the middle of a challenge that offers many unknowns, that can be even scarier. But as human beings, we have a natural skill called resilience. And in this piece of this presentation, there's a part I want to focus on that the most. It's uncertainty is inevitable, and it's just a part of life. It's how we ride the waves of uncertainty that matters. Riding that wave helps us become more resilient. When we can better understand the role of uncertainty in life, then we can be better equipped to cope with our uncertainty and build those skills of resilience. Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and dive in. I'm going to start with a couple of illustrations. You've played this game before. We've used it to negotiate something. You've played it to win something or maybe get out of something. We know the game as heads versus tails. So, you call it, the coin is flipped, and we come up with heads. So right now, there's really a 50-50 chance. And so you have a 50-50 prediction of what the outcome might be. But we're never really certain in the game if the outcome will be heads or tails. We really just wing it, call it in the air, and see what happens. The second illustration is expectation versus reality. Take a look at the pictures for a moment, and how many of you can relate to some of these pictures? I have kiddos. I have three little boys. I call my Tasmanian devils. I usually talk a lot about my kids because having kids has taught me a lot of lessons. One lesson that I've learned in having kids is living life with uncertainty. What do I mean by this? And you may be able to relate. Being a parent means living in the unknown. We can read all the books and articles, get all the advice from friends and family, but there's really no manual when it comes to kids. And not all kids are the same. You might think you're prepared for whatever might happen and have an idea of how your family life might be, but many times our realities don't meet our expectations. Like I said, kids are all different, and all three of mine are not the same. In parenting, I've learned to go with the flow and take things as they come, figuring it out along the way. Certainty of having children that I have learned is that I love them. That's never going to change. And my goal and job is to protect them and raise them to be the best person they can be, contributing to the community and others in positive ways. So with these illustrations, you can see that we don't always know the information. We try to predict what might happen in order to help us feel like we're in more control. We use information that we've learned from past events or experiences to predict what might happen now or in the future. And we use knowledge we have to make a prediction, or we might just make something up that sounds like it makes sense. That last item in the list might not be the best option, but I'm sure that it's happened before. And after we predict something, we try to make a plan. Just like preparing to be a parent, when we really don't know what we're doing until our hands are in it. I can say personally that my reality in my adult life has been very different than what I have planned or expected. I've had many challenges, but learning to increase my natural skill of resilience, I've learned to ride through that wave of uncertainty. Sometimes, that wave has broken and knocked me down, but it doesn't mean that I have never stopped working through the challenges that I've faced to keep me on track to achieve my goals. And that's how you become more resilient. So today we're going to talk about uncertainty and why it makes us feel so uneasy. I will give you a few quick things that you can do when you are in that moment of uncertainty. But what I want to focus on the most is how we build those skills to become more resilient, to experience and go through these times of uncertainty to make us better and stronger. Uncertainty literally means I don't know. It involves imperfect or unknown information. And like I just mentioned, it can apply to predictions of future events. It really means I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, next week, next month, or even next year. And when we don't know, that can bring about the reaction of feeling out of control, which then can cause us to worry and stress about what we don't know. And stressing about what we don't know too much can lead to anxiety. And this can be an easy cycle to be stuck in. So you may be asking the big question, if life is made up of uncertainty, if it's inevitable and I know it's going to happen, then why do I feel uneasy, anxious, or out of control? I'll give you a little bit of a theory. In 1943, Abraham Maslow developed a theory called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You may have seen this before somewhere, but the theory basically states that as humans, we have basic needs called deficiency needs. And those are the bottom 4 tiers in this pyramid. What those needs mean is that we don't feel any different if they are met, but if those needs are not met, anxiety can awaken. These needs, like I said, include the physiological needs like food, water, shelter, safety and security, our health, our employment, family, love and belonging, friendships, connection, and then self-esteem, the confidence we have in ourselves, the achievements that we have, and that need to be a unique individual. When we are deprived of these needs, we become more motivated to meet these needs. And then once we feel these needs are met, we can move on to self-actualization, where we are able to grow and develop, and our anxiety begins to diminish. And when we're able to self-actualize, we can then begin to contemplate the meaning and purpose of life. After a period of time when the basic deficiency needs are continuously being met, though they don't actually go away, we don't think of them as needs as much. Then we move on to the next need until we are deprived of one of those needs, and then we are motivated to fulfill that need. So originally, Maslow designed this theory to be a pyramid, and that in order to move to the next level, one level had to be met in entirety. However, later he stated that these needs are not necessarily all or none, and they may not be in order of importance in the same way for everyone. While some may have a higher need for self-esteem and love, others might have a higher need for creativity and security. And many needs depend on each other. Our behaviors can depend on different needs simultaneously. Therefore, basic human needs can be rather subjective. They can actually be intertwined and affect one another before leading to self-actualization. So I tend to see this theory like this, with the circles instead of a stacked pyramid, where all of our needs intertwine and affect each other, and in very different ways, because we all are unique individuals that eventually lead to that self-actualization. When our needs are met, when our needs are not met, like having a meat or toilet paper shortage, battling new illnesses, not being able to connect with others like we normally have been able to, changes in work, we can begin to feel uneasy, anxious, or out of control. So now that we know, why we have these feelings, if uncertainty is just a way of life, I want to give you some quick ways you can cope with it when you are in that moment of uncertainty. First is your routine. Keeping a routine can keep your mind set on being productive and maintaining purpose. For me recently, my routines had to change a little bit. Actually, it's changed a lot. And while it may take a little bit to get used to a new routine, even when it changes, having that routine helps keep me in the correct mindset. And then on to mindset. When things seem to be going every way than what we would like, you still have control over the way you think. While it's easy to focus on everything negative, it's important to focus on the positive and making sure that you include things that help you maintain that positive mindset. That means if you need to turn off the news, turn it off. If you need to shut off your social media, do it. Or even if you have to stop having conversations with certain people at the moment because it is just too draining and it brings you to that negative mindset, then that might be what you need to do. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. Your self-care. Self-care is very important, and I'm going to talk about this again in the ways we can build our resilience. Practicing self-care is really doing deliberate things to take care of our mental, emotional, and physical health. Treating others well is very important when you're in times of uncertainty. We're all braving a storm at one time or another. While some may be braving the same storm in different boats, others are tackling a completely different beast. Spreading kindness and being of service to others is a great way to build connections, relationships, and support. So, especially during times of uncertainty, it's important to really treat others as you would want them to treat you. And lastly, your goals. Don't take your eye off the prize. This might not be an ideal moment, but that doesn't mean the ideal situation will last forever. So don't forget to keep moving forward toward achieving your goals. You may be thinking that these tips are great and helpful and something that you can put in your pocket and take out whenever you feel stressed or anxious. And yes, you can do that. But using these mechanisms on a regular basis, along with others that we'll discuss in a moment, will help you move with and through each experience rather than just coping and dealing with an event. And then doing this will help you build more resilience. So why should you be more resilient? We've had the illustration that our expectations are not really our reality, that we often make predictions and plan off of those predictions because we just don't know. Well, with this, why be resilient? Because life is dukkha. And what this means, what dukkha literally is translated to, is suffering. Now, I know that not all life is suffering. So you may be asking, well, we're in kind of times of uncertainty. Why are we talking about suffering? Well, dukkha really has three meanings. First, the meaning is suffering and pain. Life will bring us suffering and pain. We can't avoid that. It includes physical, emotional, and mental pain. It also means impermanence. Our life is ever changing. Nothing is permanent. So because of that, we are able to live in the moment, enjoy the happiness that we have right now, and know that this too shall pass when we're faced with challenge. And then the third meaning is the meaning of conditioned states, that we're dependent or affected by other things, just like our needs are affected by each other. Life is ever changing, and that's really what dukkha means. And so since life isn't perfect, we are able to learn from it and grow from it and become more resilient. So now I want to dive into resilience. It's really the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. It's toughness. I want you to look at these three quotes, and I want you to read them and pick out some key words. Some key words that I've picked out are purpose, integrity, power, responsibility, and experience. We'll talk about some of these things a little bit more in depth, but I want to hone in on now is that resilience is up to us. It's up to you and it's up to me. It's what we have, learn, and practice to overcome and still succeed those waves that we feel that might be crashing down on us or that we feel are going to be crashing down on us. You see, our circumstance can give us purpose. And when we take negative circumstances and switch our mindset to positive thinking and what we are going to do with those circumstances, that gives us power. And we can only use our circumstances for purpose by experiencing them, not just dealing and coping and getting over it, not running away from them. Through experiencing what we are going through, whether it's big or small, we become better prepared for the future and have more power to do the right thing to keep us moving to the direction we desire. So I'm going to talk about what resilience is and what it is not. It's the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or even significant stress. It's bouncing back. It's being elastic from difficult experiences. We all have resilience. It's a skill that we all learn and developed. We're born with that ability to adapt and change. And for some, this can be harder than for others. The good news is that resilience is also a skill that can be learned, practiced, and strengthened. There's no aha moment when it comes to resilience. We lay down the foundation of resilience by using the most important resources available to us, which, like I said, is our mind. You see, your beliefs impact your feelings, and your feelings impact how you think about things, and your thoughts impact how you act and respond. And our beliefs, feelings, and thoughts are in our mind. So that's why it's important to experience life challenges. I like using that word experience in order to build resilience because it's not just coping, it's not just dealing, it's not just shoving the emotion down and getting over it, it's going through it. So what resilience is it's not a lack of emotion, it's not pushing through, it's not always being in control, it's not black and white thinking, and it's not resistance. So instead of focusing on the negative situation, looking at what can come out of the situation to help you move forward and be better. That is what resilience is. All right. I have yet another illustration. I like illustrations because it gets you involved a little bit. I want to talk about resilience versus stress management. I've talked about it a little bit before. I gave you coping mechanisms for when you're in that moment of uncertainty, which is really what stress management is. So I want to touch a little different between stress management and resilience because they're not exactly the same. Stress management isn't a bad thing. It's really good. We have ways to cope with our day-to-day. Resilience is different than stress management, and I'll explain. So right now in this moment, I want you to think about anything you want. Anything at all. Think about anything except for an orange fish named Nemo. Think about anything you want except an orange fish named Nemo. So when we manage our stress, we do things we need to survive the moment. We take charge and we take measures not to fail. Sometimes to manage our stress, we suppress how we feel. We try to eliminate instead of learn from our circumstances. And when we try to suppress our stress, it actually draws our attention more to whatever is stressing us out. Just like I said, you could think of anything that you want, except for an orange fish named Nemo. And then I put that orange fish named Nemo on your screen for you to see it. So what are you thinking about? Probably an orange fish named Nemo. And that's kind of what happens when we stress. We start stressing about our stress. So stress management is reactive, while resilience is proactive. Just like I stated when giving coping strategies for uncertainty, the more we practice those strategies daily, the more resilient and prepared we can become. And resilience is about being prepared for the future because you've experienced those past events. So we should welcome our stress. Okay, we've talked about uncertainty. We've talked about coping with it. We've talked about stress management and why we feel so uneasy when we're faced with uncertainties. And like I said, I want to focus on building resilience. So now I'm going to give you some strategies. And you know, there's a lot of strategies for coping and dealing with stress, for building resilience. And you have to choose which is best for you. They do all work together. Some work more for others, you know, because we're all unique individuals. So there are quite a few things that you can do on a daily basis to become more resilient. The first is to be aware and mindful. Ask yourself, what is the challenge or setback that I'm facing? Where are you? What is the setting? Who are the people? What does this look, feel like now? What are potential outcomes? And what could this mean for your future? The first step really to anything is being aware. So being aware and mindful puts you in the right place to use all your senses and get your settings and surroundings in order to move forward. Then pursue meaning and cultivate values. Modify what we do to pursue more meaning means changing something about our behavior. When we are engaged in something meaningful, it's helpful to get through the day when you need to. Do something for joy, and your brain will focus on less stressful things. So having a hobby, something you love to do, being with family, staying connected, those are all very important things. And doing something that brings you joy and happiness will take your mind off of those stressful situations. Keep it simple. Changing behavior is hard and slow, and steady wins the race. That means you can have big goals, and it's great to have big goals and something to work toward. But make those big goals, whittle them down into smaller goals, something more achievable, something simple, something you know that you can work toward quickly and you know that you can achieve. Stay positive, be silly, be compassionate with yourself and with others. This is kind of like looking on the bright side. You can always find something positive out of the negative and focus on that. Laugh at yourself. I like to tell stories about my kids because I know that other people can relate. And I like to tell the funny stories about my kids, really to relate to people and help them feel more comfortable. And it helps me know that I'm not alone, and it helps them know I'm not alone. You know, when I clean a room and I turn around and poof, all of a sudden it's dirty again. I'm not alone in that. So laugh at yourself. Don't take yourself too seriously. Another part of this is positive self-talk. It's very, very important. Just because we are resilient doesn't mean that bad things won't happen to us. It means that we're better prepared for them. So when something happens, or you have a setback, you can't tell yourself, I can't do this. This is impossible. Because you've seen where, impossible really is I'm possible, and you can do it. So telling yourself, yes, I can, and, picking yourself back up is very, very important. Stay connected. I know right now this is very different than what we have really ever known. But because of technology, we have several ways we can still stay connected with friends and family and those that bring positivity into our life. Isolation is really toxic to human nature. So staying connected with phone calls, video chat, maybe not social media, but really staying connected as much as you can is very important. Feel. Like I said, you can't just stuff down what happens. You have to experience it. You have to feel the emotion and be mindful of that emotion. Maybe write down, what am I feeling in this moment? Or what happened today that made me feel certain ways? And then you can start to work through it and move forward. Accept the ever-changing. I like using a butterfly, because butterflies go through a beautiful transformation from a caterpillar to what you see there, that beautiful blue butterfly. So change can be hard and it can be slow, but it can also result in beautiful things. Like I said, practice self-care. You see that health trinity there: diet, exercise, and sleep. Those are very, very important things. Studies show that exercise can actually be more beneficial to our emotional and mental health than taking any type of medication. And then also what we eat affects just how our physical health and mental health go together. Our mental health and our emotional health and our physical health, they really all relate with each other. And lastly, keep moving forward. Nothing happens until you decide. Make a decision and watch your life move forward. That's really all we can do. Now, this wouldn't be a health and wellness presentation if I didn't relate resilience to our health and well-being. Well-being is not an absence of a disease or infirmity. It's a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. It's a state of mind in which individual is able to realize his or her own abilities, cope with the normal stresses of life, work through them, work productively and fruitfully, and make a contribution to your community. So in a nutshell, well-being consists of two things: feeling good and functioning well. I do have a personal motto. It really is, I need to be my best self so I can give my best and do my best. And I do that. I need to feel good and function well mentally and physically. And being resilient contributes to this by keeping our outlook positive, giving our bodies physical strength to heal well by strengthening our immune system. Being resilient affects our brain health. It can reduce illness and improve physical health because we have that positive outlook. And when we have a positive outlook, we are more apt to take better care of ourselves. Our body is able to heal. Our immune response is better. And we decrease those risky behaviors that are often associated with negative feelings or stress. So really, being resilient makes us strong. It helps us be prepared for whatever uncertainty life might have for us. It helps us ride that wave. And even though the wave may break on us periodically and knock us down, I like to think of the image of a surfer getting back up, waiting for the perfect break. And when you find it, you go with it and you ride that wave. Does anybody have any questions?
If anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand or put that in the chat box. I would like to thank Sarah so much. This was such a fantastic presentation. I know I've got lots of notes written down here, so I appreciate you helping us focus on building resilience and coping with the uncertainty that we're all dealing with right now. And what some takeaways I wrote down were focusing on the experience, and you learn from the experience to become more resilient. Something else you said was engage in something meaningful, and I think that is so true, that you have to have, another key word is purpose, and accept the ever-changing, because that is something that I think it's interesting. Those of you on the call who know us, Connell Insurance, we are agents of change, and I used to think that was a very odd slogan until I realized, everything does change. Nothing stays the same, and if we are not changing with the times, then we might as well be, standing still. So, and keeping it simple, slow and steady wins the race. Nothing's going to happen overnight. And the positive talk is definitely, I will get through this. I will get better. I'm looking on the positive side. So I really appreciate you taking the time for this webinar, or educational opportunity, as we like to call it. I don't think I see any hands up or anything in the chat box. I do see some comments. Thank you very much. Good presentation, Sarah. Definitely needed this, and we'll be sharing with those I'm working with. So thank you to those who gave those positive comments. We will be sending out a survey, so please take the time to fill that out. Let us know what other educational opportunities may be more focused on this, because I myself found this very positive. So keep an eye out for that survey, and we will let everyone go. And thank you so much for joining. And again, Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everyone, have a great day.